Before the story begins, if you're ready to step into a world where humanity stands shoulder to shoulder with legends, make sure to like this video, drop a comment with your favorite moment, and hit that subscribe button so you never miss the next chapter. Now let's begin. The morning light spilled over Kestrel Hollow like honey poured across steel. The village sat at the rim of a green valley, its metal-roofed homes stitched together by dusty streets and stubborn hope. It wasn't much to look at compared to the glittering colonies nearer the core, but to the people who built it, this place was everything. They tilled the soil, raised families, and looked out for each other. And somewhere beyond the tree line, something far older and far more dangerous watched over them. Elias Ward stood at the edge of the eastern ridge with his hands in his pockets, a faint line of tension tightening his jaw. His hair was sun-bleached from too many long patrols, and a faint scar carved down from his left brow like an old warning. He scanned the morning sky, not out of habit but because the horizon no longer belonged to them alone. 32 minutes ago, orbital sensors picked up a descending council vessel, unregistered, large, and carrying far too much military hardware for a diplomatic visit. Behind him, leaves rustled. Varen emerged from the forest, its massive frame flowing through the trees with the silence of a predator born to hunt in dead worlds. Its body was sleek and scaled, mottled charcoal and deep silver, its movement like water poured into muscle. Two golden eyes locked on Elias. A lesser man might have flinched, but Elias merely tilted his head. "They're early," he muttered. Varen's head lowered in a slow, deliberate motion. The sound it made wasn't a growl, not exactly, more like the vibration of distant thunder. Elias tapped the comm on his wrist. "Arya, what's the word?" A voice crackled through, sharp with nerves. "3 ships. Landing trajectory locked on Sector 4. That's Council hardware, Eli. Heavy class." His fingers tightened against the comm. "Tell the villagers to get inside. No one outside the perimeter. You think they're here for Varen?" He didn't answer. Down in the valley, smoke trails cut across the blue. 3 vessels, their underbellies glowing with controlled descent, folded their landing struts like steel claws. They touched down just beyond the southern fence, a line of polished brutality against farmland. Even from a distance, Elias could see the shimmer of their containment fields blooming into place like invisible walls. The villagers gathered at their windows, some pressing hands to glass, others pulling children back into shadow. Whispers rippled through the community like a cold wind. Why are they here? Is it about the creature? They're going to take it. Elias strode back through the fields, Varen shadowing him with silent, predatory grace. He didn't need to look behind to know the villagers were watching. Varen terrified most of them still, even after 2 years. But they'd also seen it carry broken harvesters out of mudslides, guard their perimeter against feral beasts, and once, in the dead of night, kneel its massive head beside a boy trapped under a collapsed roof, steadying the structure until help came. Fear and gratitude tangled together in the hearts of Kestrel Hollow's people. The main shuttle's hatch hissed open with military precision. A column of armored figures stepped out, followed by a man in ceremonial black and silver robes. He walked as though the ground was beneath him by permission, not by right. Davor Kelm, High Executor of the Galactic Council. His presence here was not routine. "Elias Ward," Davor called across the field, his voice carrying the clipped confidence of someone who believed the outcome was already written. "This is an enforcement action. Stand down and comply." Elias approached until he was just close enough for Davor to notice Varen looming behind him. A ripple of unease flickered through the soldiers, though they tried not to show it. Varen didn't roar. It didn't need to. Its golden gaze was enough. "You picked a strange place for diplomacy," Elias replied evenly. "This isn't diplomacy," Davor said, not bothering to hide the satisfaction in his tone. "This is reclamation of a class-red biological asset unlawfully harbored in a civilian zone. You know what it is, Ward? What it has done. What it could do again. It hasn't done anything to anyone here. Yet." The pause that followed wasn't silence. It was a vacuum pulling tension into every inch of space between them. Davor raised a slim data pad and gestured to the field behind him. "We will seize the specimen. It will be transported for containment and, if necessary, neutralization. Compliance will ensure the safety of your people. Resistance will not." Varen's nostrils flared. Its tail moved once like a whip of coiled muscle. "You send warships to a village," Elias said, "and then call it containment. You've already made your decision, haven't you?" Davor's smile didn't reach his eyes. The decision was made the day this thing was allowed to live. A murmur rose from the houses. A door creaked open somewhere. People stepped out despite the warnings, farmers, mechanics, families who had built this place together. They weren't soldiers. But they were watching. Choosing. Davor turned to his troops. Deploy the first ring. No hostilities unless provoked. The council will not be accused of brutality today. The first containment drones floated off the landing pads, sleek ovals of humming energy. They spread like a tightening net, their emitters casting faint blue halos across the earth. Elias felt the shift in the air, the subtle vibration of power meant to trap something far stronger than human flesh. Behind him, Varen's claws sank lightly into the soil. Not aggression. Readiness. Varen, Elias said quietly without turning. Hold. The predator's breathing deepened, a low rhythm that vibrated in the bones. It didn't understand council law. It understood threat, loyalty, and the weight of shared blood in old battles. Davor tilted his head. Elias, I'm giving you one chance to step aside. Don't tether your fate to a monster's. Elias didn't blink. You're making a mistake. No, Davor said, his voice smooth as glass. I'm making history. The drones moved closer, beams aligning. One misstep and they'd fire the neural net, a trap strong enough to bring down a warbeast. Varen's muscles coiled beneath its scaled hide, the low rumble rising like the earth itself was growling. Then, in a single breathless second, Varen stepped forward. Just one pace. Enough to shift the weight of the standoff. Soldiers flinched. One drone recalibrated, a flicker of red flashing through its interface. Elias raised his hand slowly, fingers spread wide, the way one might stand between a storm and the world it threatens to tear apart. Don't. But the moment wasn't his to control anymore. The village was no longer just a settlement. The field between them was no longer just dirt. It was the line. And Varen had chosen which side of it to stand on. The air trembled as the predator's growl deepened into something ancient and full of promise. Soldiers shifted their grips. Davor's smile faltered for the first time. Above them, the last of the council ships cut its engines, casting a long dark shadow over Kestrel Hollow. The battle hadn't begun yet, but something in the world shifted, silent and irreversible. The predator had drawn its line, and the galaxy would follow. The containment field spread like a tightening throat, humming against the skin of the world. Blue light flickered along the invisible barrier, casting fractured reflections on the faces gathered behind their windows. Kestrel Hollow wasn't built for war, but war had arrived anyway, draped in the polished armor of the Galactic Council, dressed as law. Elias stood at the center of the dirt road, boots planted as if roots anchored him there. Davor Keln, immaculate in his black and silver, advanced with the deliberate pace of a man who believed time itself would wait for him. Behind the envoy, council soldiers adjusted their rifles with the quiet synchronicity of well-drilled hands. Varen remained at Elias's side, its head low, golden eyes fixed on the approaching line. The predator's breath carried the weight of restrained power. You've had your warning, Davor said. His voice didn't need to be raised. The containment field carried sound as efficiently as it carried threat. You have 1 hour to comply. After that, this village becomes a restricted zone. No appeals. No negotiations. You call this negotiation? Elias asked. It's mercy. We don't offer it twice. Elias didn't respond immediately. He studied the envoy, noting how Davor didn't look at Varen like a creature. He looked at it like a weapon he already owned. The man's confidence was cold and absolute, the confidence of someone who had never been told no. In the distance, a handful of villagers crept closer to the fence line. An old man with a weathered coat. A young woman clutching her daughter's hand. Faces Elias had known for years, carved with fear and confusion. Varen shifted its weight, catching their scent, its body language protective but not threatening. It had learned, over time, how to live among fragile things. The nearest containment drone beeped as it scanned Varen. A low pulse spread through the air, soft, deliberate, invasive. The predator's tail gave a single slow lash, its claws sinking into the soil. Davor's eyes narrowed. It remembers what we are. Good. Fear makes it predictable. You're mistaking loyalty for fear, Elias said. Davor gave a thin smile. No, Ward. I've seen loyalty. It breaks faster than a spine. The words hung like smoke, and in them was a quiet cruelty that set something inside Elias on edge. Varen's growl deepened, though soft, like the first warning rumble of a gathering storm. Arya's voice crackled through Elias's calm, low and tense. They're setting up emitter towers. If they anchor those, the field becomes permanent. How long? Elias murmured without taking his eyes off Davor. 40 minutes, maybe less. I've got eyes on 3 towers, 2 drones building more. He exhaled slowly. That was the council's way, make the cage before anyone realized the door had closed. He had to buy time. Daver, Elias said, taking a measured step forward, you and I both know what happens if you bring Varen into your labs. I was there on Adris 4. I saw what happened to the first predator you tried to control. The envoy didn't flinch. An unfortunate incident. One creature is expendable if it keeps billions safe. Billions didn't save me, Elias shot back. Varen did. For the first time, Daver looked directly at Elias instead of past him. The faint tilt of his head betrayed curiosity. So it's true. You share the bond. It's not a leash, Elias said. No, Daver replied softly. But it's a chain. One way or another. The mention of the bond carved open old memories Elias had buried deep. A trench, night sky burning with railgun fire, soldiers scattered like ash. A creature, Varen, wounded, bleeding green-black into the mud, had stood between him and a Gorthan ambush. Not because it had to. Because it chose to. That choice had cost it everything. Its pack, its freedom, its place in the galaxy. Chains can be broken, Elias said. Daver raised a hand. A single sharp gesture, and 2 soldiers stepped forward with neural clamps, thick steel bands lined with shimmering circuitry. They were designed to paralyze a predator's nervous system, shutting it down from the inside out. Elias recognized them instantly. Varen did too. Its breathing grew heavier, its body lowering into a stance not of fear but readiness. You're not taking it, Elias said quietly. I don't need your permission, Daver replied. Just your compliance or your absence. You come in here with soldiers and drones, threaten a village, and you think compliance is what you'll get? I think, Daver said, voice smooth as silk over broken glass, that people love living more than they love you. His eyes flicked past Elias, to the cluster of villagers near the fence. One mother pulled her child closer. A farmer stepped back. Fear spread like water through a crack. Elias felt it like a cold wind at his back. Daver's smile was small but real. Do you really believe they'll die for that thing behind you? Elias didn't turn. He didn't need to. Varen shifted its weight again as though sensing the shift in human hearts. It didn't understand politics, but it understood stakes. They don't have to die for Varen, Elias said. They just have to live with what happens if you take it. The envoy's hand flicked again, and the first neural clamp clicked open with a metallic snap. The soldiers advanced, cautious, keeping their formation tight. Varen's eyes narrowed, the golden light inside them hardening like a blade. Its growl rolled over the field, low enough that Elias felt it more than heard it. Don't make this messy, Daver warned. Elias moved before the soldiers crossed the last meter, placing himself directly between the clamps and Varen's lowered head. You're standing on our land, he said. So if there's going to be a mess, it won't be ours to clean up. Daver didn't step back. He simply watched, like a man certain of victory but mildly entertained by defiance. The drones above changed formation, dipping lower, their lenses glowing red. Blue light flickered through the containment field as it thickened, its hum deepening. The soldiers raised their clamps. Varen's tail twitched, the soil beneath its claws fracturing in hairline cracks. And then, as if something ancient inside it finally stirred, Varen moved, not fast, not violent, but deliberate. It stepped forward until its head was level with Elias's shoulder. It didn't attack. It just stood there, golden eyes fixed on the soldiers, chest rising with slow, controlled breaths. Its sheer presence was enough to make one of them stumble back. The moment froze. The wind stilled. A predator and a man standing side by side, facing down the machine of the galaxy. Enough, Daver said sharply. Begin the capture protocol. But something shifted behind the council lines. A farmer dropped his hoe and stepped closer to the road. Then another. A mechanic. A teacher. They weren't soldiers, but they weren't hiding anymore either. No one spoke, but their presence spoke louder than any rallying cry. Daver's jaw tightened. He hadn't expected that. Not yet. The clamps didn't move forward. Varen didn't step back. The line, invisible but undeniable, had formed. And in the space between 2 breaths, the hour Daver had given became meaningless. Elias met his eyes. You've underestimated the wrong village. Daver didn't answer. His soldiers hesitated. The drones hovered, waiting. The storm was coming and everyone felt it. The first strike came not with fanfare but with precision. A single sonic charge detonated on the northern ridge, shattering the early stillness like a hammer against glass. Birds scattered into the air. The ground trembled. Elias's hand shot up instinctively as the blast wave rolled through the fields, flattening crops in a widening ring. The containment field flared brighter, its edges shivering with pressure. Daverkeln didn't flinch. He stood near the council landing zone, his eyes reflecting the glow of the operation as if he were watching a theatrical performance he'd already memorized. His soldiers moved as one, fast, clean, efficient. They were no longer here to threaten, they were here to take. Varen raised its head and inhaled sharply, golden eyes narrowing to slits. Its nostrils caught the metallic tang of ignited weapons, the hum of hovermechs descending through cloud cover. The predator let out a low, guttural sound that rolled across the valley like the warning growl of a storm about to break. Elias didn't need translation. Varen had sensed what the council was hiding behind their comm. They were about to burn their way through this village. Arya, Elias barked through the comm, get everyone underground now. They've cut power to half the grid, she answered. We're rerouting but I can't keep them out for long. Seal the shelters. Don't argue. The sky split open as 3 council war mechs descended through the clouds, their engines screaming like metal giants awakening from sleep. They landed hard, sending plumes of dirt and heat into the air. Each mech bore the council crest, a white spiral over black plating, and a single visible command, subjugate. Daver turned slightly, not toward Elias but toward his lead officer. Engage secondary net. I want the specimen alive. I don't care what happens to the rest. The officer didn't hesitate. Yes, executor. Elias could taste the bile rise in his throat. These people weren't just willing to burn everything, they had planned for it. The first mech opened fire, not with bullets but with thermal beams. A fence line vaporized in a burst of light, molten metal dripping into the dirt. Varen reacted instantly, launching forward with terrifying grace. Its body blurred into motion, a mass of coiled muscle and predatory precision. The mech pivoted to track it, but Varen was already inside its firing arc. One massive claw swiped upward, tearing through an armored knee joint like it was wet paper. The machine stumbled with a deafening crash. Soldiers moved in, trying to encircle Varen, neural clamps ready. Elias sprinted across the open ground, ducking behind a wrecked harvester as plasma fire sliced through the air above him. He didn't carry a rail rifle, he didn't need to. He had Varen. And Varen had him. Daver's voice echoed across the field through amplified speakers. Surrender the Predator, Ward. You can't fight the Council. You can't save them. Elias slid against the harvester, breathing hard, dirt streaking his face. We're not the ones who need saving, he muttered under his breath. Varen tore through the first containment line, moving like a shadow made of teeth and purpose. It didn't kill. It disabled, a calculated precision that made even trained soldiers hesitate. One drone was knocked from the air with a whip of its tail, another shattered by a headbutt that sent sparks spiraling upward. The second mech adjusted its aim. Its targeting system locked onto Varen's core. Elias saw the red laser line streak across the field. He didn't think. He ran. Varen, he shouted. The Predator twisted at the sound of his voice, just as the mech's primary cannon fired. The shot missed its vital core by inches, slamming into its shoulder. The impact threw Varen sideways, a roar tearing from its throat, deep, raw, the sound of an apex being struck down but unbroken. The earth shook as it hit the ground. Now! Daver snapped. Neural drones swarmed in, their emitters lighting the air like fireflies from hell. Elias dropped to his knees beside Varen, yanking at one of the clamps as it locked onto the Predator's flank. Varen's breathing grew heavier, a crackle of pain flickering through the bond they shared. You're not taking it, Elias hissed, slamming his fist against the clamp's release node. It sparked but didn't disengage. Varen shoved itself upright, blood, thick and dark, running down its side. It turned its head toward the soldiers closing in. The air changed around it, a subtle, primal shift. The Predator's eyes burned brighter, not with rage alone, but with a cold, deliberate decision. Daver raised a hand. End this. The third mech advanced, heavier than the rest, its footfalls pounding through the ground like war drums. Its chest opened to reveal a containment launcher, a net lined with neural barbs. Varen crouched low, shoulders rolling forward, claws curling into the dirt. Behind them, the village shelters sealed with a deep metallic thud. Arya's voice cut through the calm, tense but steady. Elias, everyone's in. Whatever happens now, they're watching. Good, Elias thought. Let them see what loyalty looks like. The mech fired. The containment net flew through the air like a steel spiderweb. Varen lunged, not away but toward it. It slammed into the net midair, snapping half of its anchors on impact. Sparks burst outward like small suns. Soldiers stumbled back as the net folded around Varen's torso, struggling to tighten against raw strength. Elias didn't retreat. He charged with it. He grabbed one of the net's cables and jammed his multi-tool into its control node. Electricity snapped across his hand, searing pain into his skin, but the node blinked red, then died. Varen ripped the remaining cables free with a single surge of muscle and fury. The second mech fired again, but this time Varen was ready. It launched upward, claws raking across its armored chest, tearing through plating like claws through fabric. The machine collapsed, fire blooming from its core. Davor watched the carnage unfold, his hands still clasped behind his back. But his mask of control had begun to crack. Varen wasn't a beast panicking under fire. It was a guardian, an apex predator fighting with strategy and restraint. Every blow was placed, every roar calculated to draw enemy focus away from the shelters. The first wave of council soldiers began to falter. Some broke formation. Others simply stared. They'd been trained to subdue a monster, not face something that chose to fight for someone else. "Pull back," an officer stammered over comms. "It's not going down." Davor's jaw tightened. "No. We finished this." But the sky betrayed him. One of the council's own drones, streaming live footage to off-world channels, caught Varen shielding a fleeing child who had slipped past the shelter doors. The image spread across the net almost instantly. One golden-eyed monster crouched between a child and the council's mechs. Elias saw Davor's expression harden as the realization struck him. The council had brought its weapons. Varen had brought the truth. Varen roared, not in fury but in something deeper, defiance that made the very air shudder. It sounded less like a creature and more like the earth itself announcing that it would not be moved. Council forces fell back several steps, mechs smoldering, containment nets in tatters. The village still stood. The predator still stood. And the people behind the shelter doors knew now that it wasn't the monster they should fear. Elias wiped blood and soot from his face, his chest heaving. Varen loomed beside him, injured but unbroken, its breath steaming in the cold air. Davor's voice cut through the smoke, thinner now, strained beneath a veneer of control. "You've only delayed the inevitable, Ward." Elias met his gaze across the battlefield. "No," he said. "I've reminded them who's worth fighting for." The next wave was already forming at the edges of the containment field. The war wasn't over. It had just become impossible to ignore.